Everyone's here. I call the March 18th, 2025 regular board meeting of Glencoe Park District to order. Lisa, please call the roll and state the time.
It is 7 p.m. Commissioner Boren,
Yes.
Commissioner Covey,
Here.
Commissioner Schneider is absent, Commissioner Spector,
Here.
President Spain.
Here. Consent agenda items A, B, and C are routine. Does any commissioner want any item pulled from the consent agenda items?
No.
Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Boren,
Yes.
Commissioner Covey,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes, okay. Thanks for joining our meeting. We now have a period where we can address comments from the public. Would you like to make any remarks today? Yes, so that we can do that now, actually. Yes, so we have the next item on the agenda is the discussion for the discussion about non-residents and the fee policy. So we would be running into that discussion anyway, if that's what you're here for. So, so our verbal comment, just the rules are, feel free to come up there, and we have a 3-minute period, and then we'll have a discussion, and you'll get to hear us have. That's okay.
So I can introduce myself. I'm Lori Croston. I've been a resident. My family and I have been residents of Glencoe for just about 9 years now. We originally rented a house on Woodlawn, and then we now live on Scott. So we have a Winnetka address, but we are within Glencoe Village. So the reason I came tonight is because I was recently contacted by the Park District, in which I was asked to present tax information showing where my tax dollars went, which I thought was a little bit weird, but the some of it was there was a change that was made in how my family was, the status of my family within the Glencoe Park District. We have, since we moved here, been considered residents. We've been active members. We SWATs. My son is a graduate of GJK. We've used the facilities, throughout our 9-year tenure and absolutely loved it. But I received this email and was surprised that our status had changed from resident to non-resident. I had a couple discussions with Lisa. I've since been in contact with the village of Glencoe and talked with Howard, just to get a little bit better understanding of a couple of items. So thank you for including this as an agenda item tonight. I certainly appreciate your time. I know time is valuable. I would like to stay and maintain or go back to the status that we had as resident for the Park District. I know that this is not a little bit of a unique situation, given that we have Winnetka address. I know there's a number of houses and a number of people that are in the same situation as myself and our family. But we love the Park District. I think that great things happen here. My son absolutely loved GJK. I love the beach and am, a proud member of the community. I do think we are different than someone that lives in Arlington Heights or someone that lives in Des Plaines. Those are true non-residents. Our house is located in the village of Glencoe, and we are members of the community. So, I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Thank you. So the board we had a committee meeting where, or not during the committee meeting, Lisa had sent us a memo just to give us some background about this issue beforehand. So just to kind of start our discussion about this. So if looking back to Lisa's memo, and you may want to give some introduction on that too, but this is in relation to the Park District's boundaries not being coterminous with the village of Glencoe, so that there are some residents, as you recall, that may be Glencoe residents, but may actually be in the Winnetka Park District boundaries. So Lisa, did you want to make any
Sure.
comments.
There's a memo in your packet. So as part of the election process, our local election official, Erica, is required to verify the street addresses who are eligible to vote for elections, the one that's coming up. And that's when it was noticed that there was a number of people that were listed as Park District residents when they were not. So, and probably my guess is the village list still listed them as village residents and they thought they were Park District also. Probably technology has caught up, and that's when we were able to discover that there was a number of residents or people that have been getting resident rates when they're non-residents. So that's when the email did go out to a number of residents. There was quite a few on Scott Street, but also other ones within the village for whatever reason were getting resident rates, whether when they first put their household in or whatever, it indicated that. So once that was determined, we did send an email out just indicating that if they could please prove they were residents, maybe what we had information was wrong. So we wanted to give a chance to any resident or anybody to show, no, I really do pay taxes. Something was wrong. So we allowed that ability to do so. So that's when we had a number of individuals. I think there was 12 individuals who use Glencoe Park District services currently that are Village of Glencoe residents. There are probably more, but those are the ones that are currently using our programs. So that's when I talked to a number of individuals and I said, it's really a policy decision. This is a policy made by the Glencoe Park District Board of who is classified as a resident or non-resident, and I had no ability to change that. So that's what brings us here.
Okay. And I think, we had just the discussion point for this evening would be whether or not we wanted to, clearly our policy is to have a resident versus a non-resident rate. But if there's anything unique about Lori or her neighbors in this situation where perhaps there's some confusion related to Village of Glencoe or being closer proximity to the community, that we would want to make any sort of exception. So I just wanted to see if the board members wanted to share their thoughts.
It's a little atypical to do this, so congratulations. I'm curious to know, is your children are out of the educational programming now, or are they still participating in the educational programming?
So I have one son, William, and he's actually in private school.
Okay,
He's not.
but I'm sorry, I meant like the any of the
Well, he's 11.
he's 11, so he does participate in some of the after school activities. Is he participating in the camp activities?
He'd like to.
I-
I would like to.
But he has not yet done so.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
but
okay,
Historically, like we've rented out lots. He's gone to camp.
good. So that's what I want to understand. He's gone to camp, he's used the camp resident rates, and he wants to continue doing so. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
He loves camp.
That's, he's in the 95% of people that our survey says love the camp, so that's great.
He does. He's happy every day.
That's all I want to know.
Well, in our discussion last time, we were saying we had two options. We had talked about like a year leeway to ease into it or to just stop completely. So are we still on those two options or are we considering something else?
And I think that when we're discussing whether, I think we're discussing that on a go
Yeah.
forward basis, right? That this would be a clear
Yeah.
delineation of resident versus non-resident. It was just for the village, specifically Village of Glencoe residents who maybe thought they were Park
Right.
District residents, whether or not we wanted to offer resident rates. And if so, what would be the parameters for that and for
Yeah.
how long?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think typically,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
The
Um,
protocol is that you made your 3 comments and then the board discusses.
Yeah.
But thank you.
but you
Appreciate
can, you're welcome to stay and
But
listen.
we're not voting on anything
Tonight.
related to this in this evening. It's just a discussion item.
I mean, the way,
And you can contact us, after or
Yeah.
anything if you want to add.
I think what we discussed last time was this, and that's why I asked our lovely constituent the question, was there educational programming involved? Because for me, I think that's a huge difference between, simply financial benefits of beach, Weinberg
Not
passes.
educational, you're talking care.
Recreation.
Sorry, care programs.
thank you.
Sorry, that's correct. Care programs. I think that we are challenged here because effectively people's taxes give them, that's the way I see it, a small discount on the benefits that we serve, while we also allow people who do not contribute to the tax base to receive those services at a higher cost. And I think my stance was for this round where we are today, and I guess the registration happened last week. I felt that was kind of a good chance to let them have it and then find the time to cut it off. And I still feel that way. I still feel like there needs to be a cutoff, and the reason why, again, is just it's not necessarily fair to let people who pay to Winnetka taxes who happen to have a Glencoe address versus people who pay for Winnetka taxes but don't have a Glencoe address pay for it. And it's not like we're intermingling funds between the village and the park district. Well, I think we are two standalone entities. We are two standalone tax collection. There are some intergovernment services that exist, but those are mutually beneficial. And so I personally, and I feel the pain of the residents out there, but I think we should pick a point in time. And by the way, I don't care if I do care if it's retroactive. I don't want to do it for I think whether it's, today or whether it's 365 days from now to move on. I can understand wanting to do it for a year, and I can also understand if someone has an educational or care that we can continue with that. But for Beach, Weinberg, I don't see the benefit.
I think specifically one of the issues is with both Beach and Weinberg is that they are, the fees don't cover the cost of service whatsoever. This is basically property taxes fund these amenities, and that the differential between the rate
Yeah.
for residents and non-residents is not, I think in a way, too significant to overcome for someone to participate in our programs. And I would say that those at these addresses can benefit from all of the amenities of the Winnetka Park District, which are, they offer
Yeah.
beaches, they offer an indoor rink, maybe not an outdoor rink, tennis programs. In some ways, they offer things that we don't have at resident rates without paying taxes to
Yeah.
the village of Winnetka. So at some point, somebody's paying for something everywhere. But whether you're paying taxes into the village, but not, you're also benefiting potentially from not paying taxes to the village of
Yeah.
Winnetka, but getting those services at resident rates. So I think to the point that you made, Michael, I think the only particular programs where it makes a significant difference would be Camp and Children's Circle, where there's a significant financial difference that I guess-
GJK doesn't have a resident rate, does it? It's not our program.
It's not our program.
Right, it's not our
GJK is
program,
not our
but-
program, so we have nothing to
Yeah,
do with
what-
that. We
can you-
lease a space, but that's it.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what the fee difference is for resident versus non-resident? Do we know that?
Traditionally about 10% just on general programming, camp,
10%?
children's circle. Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
that's it.
It's not too much, but there is one other question that it's a more philosophical question that I didn't think of until just now. These children who are or these families that are in Glencoe address, Winnetka Park District, where do their kids go to school?
Winnetka.
The kids do go to school in Winnetka.
That's their public school, yeah.
Good. Because I was gonna say, I can understand where if your kid went to school in Glencoe and then all the kids from the camp are in Glencoe, like I still, if I were to wave my magic wand, I'd probably grandfather the families for and it's complicated, so I'm not advocating that we do this, but I'd probably grandfather the families that use care into the Glencoe rates and Glencoe timing so the kids can stay together, because I think that's fair. And then everything else, I would pick a day and cut it off. I was under the impression there were very few, I think from our last discussion, there were very few in the care programs.
In the camp, yeah, we didn't have,
I thought we actually had none, so I'm kind of a little
that's
bit
when we were
surprised
pulled off-
by
yeah, me
this
too. Did they,
conversation.
did you go to camp last year?
No, did not.
Okay, that's
Okay,
why.
that's why. Okay.
They were not in camp last year.
because literally
We had
we-
no one in camp.
Yeah, we discussed it because I felt strongly
And
about. the
camp
concept.
enrollment already took place in December, I
Yeah.
think, generally. I mean, you could sign up now, but, so that would have been at a resident rate.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
Yeah, then if there truly are, and if our guest of honor here is the one exception, if there truly are people who have been loyal to our camps, and had this kind of address issue, I don't mind continuing it for them if it's possible, which I don't know if it is. But otherwise, I think we pick a date and we cut it off, and move forward.
If we make a single exception for camp, is that something that requires some sort of vote and resolution, or is that something that could be at staff discretion?
No, it would have to be, we would ask the board support. We don't have to change
Yeah,
the
do-
policy, but I
Uh-huh.
would caution you
Uh-huh.
that if you make one
One
exception,
exception, then it's every.
yeah, it's
That's the-
everyone. You can't
yeah.
just say one.
No.
Yeah,
We also have residents that move, we just actually had this. We had a resident that was here for 35 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
They had a boat on the beach and they just moved out of Glencoe and they still want to pay resident rates because they paid taxes here for 30 years. Where do you stop and say, okay, well, you no longer pay taxes there, but they still want a resident rate because they paid it for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's that kind of,
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
yeah, you cannot make one-off exceptions. That would make
Well,
life.
And also there's waiting lists for camps by
I-
residents and that would go over to a.
I hear you on all of that. I do think this is literally a gray area. These folks are still paying taxes to the village of Glencoe and Winnetka Park District. And so that to me, if we want to, I think we can make a manual exception for it. I'm not saying we have to, but that's really different than someone who has upped and left and gone to like Wheeling. This is a gray area, like however we want to call this is a gray area.
I prefer to not open the gray area because I think that you could say there's a gray area for Highland Park if you live in off of like any sort of border. I mean, I guess it's in the village, right? But the truth of the
Yeah.
matter is, I had actually spoken to Howard, so I'm a little bit familiar with your conversation. If we're talking about like the beach, for example,
I'd only make
there
it
were
for care,
some
by the way,
mutually
not
funded
beach.
projects, but the village has their water plant.
Mhm.
And so that portion that was financed by the village was to support the water plant and not the park district. And it's park district taxes paying for beach operations, beach maintenance. And
Fixing the
To me-
wall and
Yeah.
the steps.
Fixing the wall.
I would only make the exception for care.
so I feel like I'd rather not open it up for more requests. Like if you grant one, I think at this point, we could make a point that I personally think from this point on, it should be divided based on resident or not resident, because I do not think that the cost to the non-resident is so big of a barrier.
Hmm.
And really, it's unfair to the taxpayers if they are not getting different treatment because they're contributing 7% of their property tax bill
Right.
to the park district, and these services are offered by the Winnetka Park District.
Agree, but just to put this, the only exception I would grant is a continuation of care, of camp and of school. And I think we probably have like literally one person in that category. And the
Well, we
reason,
actually had 0 because no one came to camp last year. So
well,
what's loyalty?
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there.
No, you're-
Because
you're-
someone could come back and
you're right.
say, you know,
you're right.
oh, I went, you know, just plain devil's advocate because I'm the one at the other end.
No,
of the phone. Yeah.
you're right. But I would like us to research just to double check, make sure there's no one that had a camp. Because here's what I want to do.
I could tell you there was no one registered
Okay.
for camp last year
That live there?
that
That's fine.
lived at those addresses. We
Perfect.
did
I just don't want to punish the
we
kids.
did a database check on that. So
There's no ELC or Children's Circle as
no,
well.
there
Or
was,
kids.
he has it
I
right
guess
there.
wouldn't be Kids Club because it's not
Yeah.
a Winnetka school.
Right.
That's
No.
I mean, this is out of our realm, but I don't know if those residents have a choice of can they switch. I mean, it's just a weird situation. So
Can
when
they
you talk to
choose?
Howard,
Yeah, they can't
can they
choose.
say,
They can't
I
choose.
want my tax bill changed?
No,
Okay.
the whole street would have to end, the whole street would have to annex into
Okay.
the Glencoe Park District.
It's very,
a very-
it's
it's
just
a
a
very-
very
So strange.
strange
It's strange.
situation.
But
very
in
weird.
some ways, it makes sense for them to be, if they're with Winnetka schools, Winnetka parks, I don't know.
Right,
It's
like
just very
why-
odd that it's village.
Because
weird.
because Glencoe probably wants the revenue and probably services the water.
It
or
was
something.
divided for some obscure reason,
Yeah.
you know,
It's very
probably
strange.
100 years ago when they were doing the divisions for some
But
reason.
I will say, I do feel for the residents there. I know it's
Sure.
confusing. I know it's,
Hmm.
I know it's tough. But
Live in Glencoe Village and our tax dollars. Structure, each project, those all service the park district.
they don't do beach projects.
No,
They did, we paid 50% of the village dollars toward the beach. project.
That's
towards the road.
Towards
the road that
the
that-
road.
that the village uses to access the village's water park.
But,
That's,
but to
yeah.
play devil's advocate, you know, for example, the ability to access Winnetka schools and Winnetka parks, but you're not paying for the roads that go to, so you could play it either way. I mean, we're in Cook County, we pay taxes to Cook County, but we don't use all the amenities.
Again, you said it's a small amount. Goodwill towards residents that live in the village also counts for something. It is odd to change this after we've lived here for 9 years, so haphazardly, if I may. So, like I said, you're saying that the dollars don't amount to much. Maybe they amount to a lot for me.
and
You know, and the goodwill.
And sorry, I don't want to keep this to be a back and forth because that's not the rules for these meetings.
but it is, I can tell you, Carol, that this is not an easy change for people. The
Mhm.
good thing is that we do offer, I believe we offer, not scholarships, but need-based access to our beaches through the libraries or
Yeah,
through
through the
other,
library passes.
the library passes in other ways. So like we have addressed, I think pretty well, we've addressed a couple things. One, it's open to anybody who wants to come. They may have to pay a little bit more. They may have to register a little bit later. And two, access to some of our incredible resources is available for those that are financially challenged by going, or actually anybody, by going to their local libraries.
Mhm.
And three is that the people who are in this situation also have access at resident rates to the Winnetka offerings too. So I know it's a challenge, but I think we've done a pretty good job at mitigating some of that.
And I will say, I don't think it's that the park district is changing the boundaries. It's
Yeah.
that we caught.
Yeah.
That there were people who registered as residents that were
Yeah.
not. It wasn't a change. It was just that this was the first time that it was particularly caught, but there were no changes in the policy and no changes in the boundaries.
Correct. There's no, yeah, we just didn't.
Okay.
Right, we when did the address verification, there was.
I still am okay if we want to give, I think, I'm okay if we want to give a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month grace period. I don't mind that. I think you got to pick a point in time and cut it.
I mean,
Okay.
I think that's you know, that is an option, but also that's a lot of, I guess, I think at this point, camp registration is not over, but it's happened. I don't know what the capacity is. And going forward, I think that we'd be making, by the time there just isn't a lot. It just doesn't, I don't know if it's makes sense given that there are very limited usages. But Jordan, I haven't heard you weigh in recently.
I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with Michael. I'm in agreement with all of you. I can go either way on it, but I do believe that it does need to be at some point, we need to get back to how it's supposed to be and how it should have been. Like you said,
So-
7% of your property taxes go to park infrastructure, and it's not fair to the people who pay it to get that access, and then some people who don't to get that access. I'm in agreement that we need to get to a proper baseline. I would be to the grace period, or he's talking about, or to even the care exceptions.
I don't think we have to do a care
I
exception.
could be persuaded to that, yeah, but
And I will also add that we just passed a referendum that our taxpayers will be paying for to finance beach improvements.
Yep.
And that is a significant investment on behalf of our taxpayers.
correct.
If I add, I think you should make a decision either to allow everybody who's pays tax of Village of Glencoe, if you want to grandfather them in for a short period of time, then it has to be everybody. I can't all of a sudden say, okay, that program is more
No,
important than
I hear you.
someone else. I just can't. So make a decision one way or another, but I wouldn't say, okay, we're going to carve out this one.
Yeah.
I would say either.
You've won me over because there's no exceptions, so I'm okay with it. I'm okay cutting over. I would probably, when is the next major registration?
July.
And that's for the-
fall programming.
For fall programming. I'm okay doing this for like August 1st. Let them get their beaches, let them get the fall programming in, and then cut it. That's a caring way to do it. It's not exactly what we want, but I'd vote for August 1.
I'm fine with that.
Is that a consensus? Okay,
That's,
so
yeah.
we won't make a change in policy, but I have consensus that August, Village of Glencoe residents can get resident rates until August 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
So what is the best way to follow up on this? That you have several additional points that I would like to make, and
You can-
want to follow up with the village as well.
You can follow up with us. I don't know that the village would, it's a different constituency, so I don't know exactly what they would be addressing, but our contact information, so feel free to contact board members. Our emails are published on the Park District website, and so you could send an email to the board
Okay.
Or to me and I forward it on, either way.
or to me as the president.
It goes a long way for goodwill, and it doesn't amount to that much money invested in the community, so it doesn't make us feel very.
Well, thank you for your participation tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're moving on to the financial report. So John is going to share a synopsis.
Thank you, President Spain. Good evening, everyone. So we're through our fiscal year. So the financial report tonight represents 12 months of activity. Keep in mind, this is still on the cash basis, so we have yet to make the significant accrual adjustments for deferred revenue, for some of the property tax revenue that came in on the next levy year that came in prior to February 28th. So, these are by no means final numbers for our fiscal year. All that being said, I wasn't going to get into the detail on each of these. I'll just point out as I went through a comparison of our projections that were presented and are included in the budget approval draft, which you all have for tonight's meeting. No major or significant variations from what we're projecting out. Our projections are what we're showing now. Again, and this is dependent on accrual adjustments, so it's tough to say, but we should wind up pretty close to those projections, if not better than what we were expecting within those projections. So nothing significant from that perspective. And then I'll just point out, obviously, the Weinberg season wrapped up for us with approximately $120,000 deficiency in revenue over expenditures compared to $91,000 in the prior year. And I think we talked about a couple times at the previous meeting some additional work that was related to additional R22 purchases and maintenance on the mechanicals themselves. So that's the main driving force there. So we're closing the books now. We have a pretty quick turnaround for our audit. Our field work is expected to take place in mid-April. So that's a pretty tight turnaround from our fiscal year end. And once we get a better idea of accrual adjustments, once we start booking those accruals, I should say, we'll have a much more clear picture as to where we're going to wind up at the end of the fiscal year on a GAAP basis. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
I have one question, and then I'm going to cut myself off. And I probably should have asked this a few months ago. The beach revenue, you were at 350,000 last year. You're at 390,000 this year. That is like a 10 to 15% increase year over year, which makes me happy. And your expenses were actually did not go up as much as your revenue went up, so your excess is good. How do you feel about the policy last year with the accessing more of the Monday through Friday one-time passes, whatever, daily passes? Did that work out well? Are the lessons learned? And I realize we're a little bit late. We're not going to change it for this year, but like, it seems like it kind of worked out a little bit better.
I think it was a great season. I think the feedback from the survey was pretty positive. Financially, when we budget, we tend to use 3-year rolling averages, because you can see, if you look to compare to last year, yeah, we were up, but if you actually look for the year before,
Yeah,
we're within $5,000. So 1 or 2 weekends can make a pretty big difference. 4th of July can make a really big difference for pass sales. Pass sales were strong. I will say just a couple points on the expenses. There was some changes in some of our expenses related to insurance, because we transferred beach managers, and depends on what insurance they took.
Yeah.
And some reallocation of expenses too.
Oh, you guys go that? You guys?
Mhm.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
in
Well,
the
it's been
beach
done
budget. Mhm.
Well, look, I think I'm really happy that you guys put that new policy in. It looks like it hit our bottom line. Okay. I'm not going to ask you how you lost $138 in revenue month over month. But I'm happy to see that the beach policy is both fiscally responsible, and I think giving responsibility to our constituents who can access it as well from these libraries, like we just talked about. So thank you for taking that into consideration.
If there's no further questions, I think we can move forward to the executive director report.
Excellent. Well, first thing I want to bring up is our spring summer registration. If you registered, we had some glitches in our system, a slowdown. I would say that people were always able to register, but it never crashed. But there was a definite slowdown, and then it picked back up. So I'm going to turn it over to John. I gave you there's a memo in there, kind of a more detailed explanation, but the status of where we are right now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, during registration that Thursday morning, staff was on site along with L6, our technology partner, just to monitor our systems and see how things were going. And I will just point out that at no point during the registration did our internal servers appear to be stressed or overloaded. So we did rule that out pretty quickly. Registration did slow down, as Lisa had alluded to, for about 10 minutes, from about 7:05 to 7:15. So we got the initial rush, and then something kind of slowed it down. To Lisa's point, it does seem like everybody, got into the programs that they were looking to get into based on the follow-up, or most did, I should say. But it did slow down significantly during that 10-minute increment there. So what we've done, we've been in discussions with L6, and we're really kind of zoning in on the software itself and then the VSI and the RecTrack and WebTrack software that we use. And we're also working with other districts that also utilize VSI. There really aren't too many players in the registration software space. There's VSI who we're with, and then there's another large one, and those are the two main ones. So we've reached out to some of the other districts that are using VSI to see, and what we found is that, they share similar challenges to what we've experienced. And so we're working on coming up with a permanent long-term solution on this and really identifying what's worked for other districts, and what has not worked. So we're really going to focus in on that and continue to work with L6 and both VSI to ensure that, we get that long-term solution in place.
I was so surprised about it because thought we had fixed everything, because I think
Yeah.
the prior registration went really.
It did.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what we're real frustrated about. We'll have a really good registration and then we'll have a problem, really good registration. That's why we know it is toggling back to VSI.
More of
and not
a
us.
glitchy software than,
Yeah.
internal server
Capacity,
capacity. We share that. And this was obviously less volume too than the December registration, the camp registration. We were pretty confident and happy after that. Working with L6, making sure internally we were completely shored up, which we are, and we still are confident that we are. So it is, from our perspective, we're thinking it's kind of a glitchy software. And that's why, we're going to look at all options, potential, whether we host internally or whether VSI would be better suited to host for us. We'll certainly be on the table and just exploring all those options.
I do want to make, I know, because I've talked to several people on this issue, and I know people are frustrated and I understand because it takes a long time. But we're never going to get to the point of United Airlines or Amazon, who can invest billions. That billions isn't going into registration software. So I don't think we're ever going to meet the expectation of people who will just go in there and be able to go through the process real fast. Whatever solution we have, we hope that there will be no crashes. It may still be a little slow, maybe a waiting room and things like that. I just want to manage expectations, and we're going to do the best we can on that. Was very interesting is that L6, who works with many park districts, said our registration is unusually high. They're like, we don't see this kind of registration demand in big park districts. A
lot of type A personalities in Glencoe that.
Or really good programs that people want to get into.
I think there's both.
So let me start.
I think there's both, but I do think that I know when my kids were going through it, it was like, set the alarm for 6:30, set the alarm for 6:40, make sure the computers are working.
Yeah.
I think
What we want to get to is that people don't feel like it's any disadvantage. We don't feel like with this registration there was, or we would have canceled it. I was on vacation. I was on the phone with them. No one lost their space in line unless they canceled out, which maybe people get frustrated and do that. What we want to do is make sure that even if they're in a waiting room and it takes a little longer, at least they know it's a fair shake, right? And that's what we want to make sure, it's a fair shake for everybody to get into those popular classes. And we don't have a solution yet. We'll come back with much more detail. We might want to make you aware. We know about it. We're equally frustrated as a residents, because sometimes I think it's VSI and I know sometimes they don't even toggle one thing that they already fixed, and then they did an update in their system and didn't toggle that, and there's no way to apparently test it. So that's our frustration, because some of this stuff has already been fixed and they're like, oh, this wasn't toggled. I'm like,
My husband does this stuff for a living, and
Yeah.
I was complaining about it to him, and he was like, it's really impossible to test these.
It is.
Yeah.
It's called regression testing, and it is we have these exact problems at work too. So do not think
phew.
that you guys are alone.
phew.
Like,
I'm like, United's always perfect.
no, we have, these are the exact same things that we fit into it. It's like, oh, we tested it, but then there is a customer who wants a wheelchair with an unaccompanied minor who is doing, and that's what ends up messing it up, right? Something like
Right.
something very that you don't see all that often.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed with the fact that you had a 10-minute. It's not perfect, but it's also this is the
Thanks.
real
I
world.
You
appreciate
do
that.
have a moment of panic.
You do.
I get it.
Because you want to know those programs,
I think Aaron and John were the recipient of my moment of panic.
I
I was like, I'm in Puerto Rico.
and I'm in
mean,
DR. So, she's texting and we're like, I'm
what actually
pulling a drink. No.
what actually could help out in this
Just kidding.
is how do you, because look, we're going to have these IT problems, whether it's L6, whether it's VSI, whether it's someone. And I think the question is, how do you immediately communicate, you know there's a problem, you're not going to lose your place in line? Like, how do you make that? Because we're not getting away from technology problems.
Well, do we have the ability to see in the system if someone was in the waiting room or if someone got kicked off? Like, do we have any ability behind the scenes to see that with the provider?
Yeah, right now we don't, and we don't necessarily have a waiting room. If we did want to go that route, it would be hosting with VSI, so it would just kind of change the approach we've taken. So that's some of the challenges is we, unfortunately we can't stress test the system beforehand, and we have no way of knowing when people. A lot of folks that called in registered and then got a spinny or then the error came up and then they called and said, hey, did I get in? And we're like, yeah, you're in. So that was a lot of it, but there's no way for us to see people that are there or stuck or anything to that effect in real time right now.
And I do think people call, and I always tell people that reach out to me during that, like, just call the front desk. There's people
Yeah.
there. But, there's people that just are going to call and say they were there anyway. So you can't differentiate between someone who really tried and someone who didn't. And this is also like, I know we put in our maximum so that it does fill. Would we ever consider putting in like 2 less to accommodate for some of these things? Because, you're just going to get a lot of frustrated residents, and it's better to say, oh, well, we have 2 spots rather than, always not be able to get people in. And I know you guys are great about making other classes and trying to, fill the need, and you're really good about reaching out for that. But just something to consider, giving yourself a cushion.
Look, we're definitely looking at
Our push,
everything.
the first thing I said is like, okay, make more classes so we can make everybody happy. And kudos to the rec team,
Other
'cause they
than
did that.
ceramics, I think
Yeah.
ceramics is one of the only ones because we're limited on
But
space.
we'll bring solutions back because
Yeah.
other park district who's had very frustrating experiences too, they have found success in this moving it to online platform with VSI. We still have to learn more. It's just a little bit slower, but it seems that if you go through their cloud-based platform, they have less glitches because they've tested those, and that's where the upgrades are. And it would involve a waiting room. So we still have to check all that out, but people that have done that, park districts have done that, have been satisfied. And some have been satisfied, but are still looking around. So give us a month and we'll come back with more information. We just want to really make you aware of it and that we're aware of it. And we understand the frustration. We get it. We're batting around all sorts of ideas. Like, do we spice up the registry, like slice up so there's not so many people coming in a day and things like that. So we're looking at those.
I'm glad my friends are finally older now. Like, the kids are finally older, so I don't get those calls because
The
I
kids-
used to get like
Now Carol does.
Carol does.
5. So
No,
you get
it's-
it.
Look,
So I get it. They're great programs and some of them are very popular and some we can't add on to. And we're lucky to have that problem, right? That a lot of our classes fill with residents immediately. So that's a great problem. So we'll be back. So
Okay.
just want to make you aware if you ask, it's not as simple as like snapping our fingers and changing software. I don't think, maybe you were on the board when we changed the software last time. It was a 2-year process. It's not, and a very cumbersome. So it's not something we can just go, oh, let's go with a provider because other provider industry isn't much better. So so be patient with us. So that's what I'm going to say on that one. Boards and bites. The next one's April 5th. So I need a volunteer it's from 8 to 9:30 at Hometown.
I can help.
You want to do that one?
I'm no longer traveling that weekend, so I'll be in town.
Okay.
8 a.m. is my jam.
Okay. So I'm out of town, but Bobby's going to be there. So we have Michael.
Okay, Bobby, we got this.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
What's the
I
budget for
think we only
coffee?
need one.
Yeah, I can't make it. So.
Nope, we only
I have
need,
my
I think we
blood.
only need one, that's fine. It gets so crowded when it's a small location. So thank you for that. In your budget book at the back, we added our goals for the year. So we also put a copy on there. So that is new. We're going to add it to the budget book from now on along with other things. So that way we always, every year, you get it at the same time. And the goals are based on our comprehensive goals. And then if each department mixed teams, because a lot of them are in a silo, did individual goals to meet those comprehensive goals. So hopefully you looked at it, if you have any questions, but that is the goals that we'll be working off. And these are, we always call them living goals. We add throughout the year. We might take some or push them back. So this is pretty much, I call a living document. So at any time, if you see something or when you're reading this, you're like, I really like to see this. Can you make this happen? Let us know. We'll see what we can do as long as it's within budget and things like that. So, all right. Other than that, kudos to the staff for a great Weinberg season. We will do a report on that in the April board meeting.
And to Shannon, who did awesome.
And Shannon, phenomenal job. Their second year at Weinberg, so we're happy. So, anybody else have anything in the direct report that you want to add?
We held our first lockdown drill here for the whole Take-Up Center today. It was a staff-led drill. It wasn't involving the community at large. Our early childhood wing was obviously involved because they're in the classroom. So we had public safety on site. We rolled out a couple of new improvements. We're continually making changes and kind of moving forward with that, but it went really well. The goal today was to test the overhead announcements and the phone announcements, and then to do some checks on door hardware. And it was very successful. We have a full debrief with all of our staff tomorrow, but it was great to get a full building under our belt. So the goal is now to do one every 6 months.
I have to say, public safety was very impressed that we have bolo sticks in every room. They're like, when did you have those? And I'm like, 2 months ago. So kudos to the team, because our first test to now, we've
They're like
come
pins in the
such a
door.
long way
Stop. Yeah.
in this. And the staff was very calm. They
Mhm.
knew exactly what to do. And we'll keep on reading that drill, and we'll add extra shooter drills and other drills as we go along. So, but very proud of that progress we made. So
How is it explained to the little ones?
it's so funny. They are
So sad.
They're
totally
really
fine with
they're
it.
They
really
get it.
good with it. Yeah.
They get it. It's so sad.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's very sad to me. But we had the teachers talked to all the kids, and we're going to have a little we'll make a safety drill, and they don't tell them why.
Yeah.
necessarily.
We don't use the word
We
lockdown,
never do.
so it was a staff safety drill. So that's what they heard, and then they kind of make a game out of it.
Okay.
But
Are
yeah,
there like other activities going on too, like enrichments at that
Mhm.
time? So you're testing that too.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yep, we test them all.
Okay.
yeah, they're very helpful drills. We learn a lot every single time. But this is the first time now we've done it in this whole area, and we spent a lot of time talking with staff about procedures and
Yeah.
various different things.
So it was the safety committee is really doing a great job on that. We take it very seriously, and it shows through
That's good.
that. So the progress we made. So of course that, anything else? I think most of them are action items on. That's it. Does anybody have any other questions on my report? There's a lot of information in there, but
I like to see the fitness center growth.
I know, I like that.
It's doing good.
I also like to see the use is continuing later in the afternoons on weekends. And so we'll keep on monitoring
Yeah.
that, and hopefully that continues through the summer. If not, we'll adjust accordingly. But right now, the usage has been very good in those later hours.
Can I go back to the safety?
Yes, please.
You said, so when you did your drills, you had public safety involved.
Yep.
Was this just like a tabletop with them, or was this just, they were there kind of monitoring and?
Kind of monitoring. This was a lockdown, so not active shooter lockdown. So they actually went and tested doors with us, and, just really got to know the building and what we do in these instances. They heard the overhead. It was interesting because we had announcement the whole time going, this is a drill. So the general public didn't pick up. What was really nice, they're like, that's not too loud to scare anybody, but it's loud enough where we could not hear one kid in the room. So if there was a child crying, say in preschool, no one could hear it. So he goes, we never
Mhm.
had that before. That's a really good thing. So it made us think, like, if we do have a real, God forbid we ever do, but if we did, we'll have announcement going, this is lockdown, this over and over, so that kind of drowns out any noise in the classrooms, which is very important to do also.
There been like any discussion or like anything ever thought or planned for like a tabletop
Yes.
with the village with?
Yep.
Uh,
Oh, we've
We've
done
done
those
we've
before.
done some.
Okay.
We've absolutely done those before, and that's what we're talking. Then the next one, next year we'll have to do is, would have to be an active shooter, but it can't be like we did today. That would have to be a tabletop. Like,
Right.
for example, you're in the gymnasium, you're outside, you're in the playground, what do you do? And that's more of a tabletop,
Right.
yes.
The teachers
Yes.
did one of those
They do.
last year as well, and
Yeah,
it was
they
very
did.
successful.
Hey,
Okay, thank you. If there isn't any
Good question.
further discussion, we'll move on to today's action items. I entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget approval draft, which includes the organizational chart, mission statement, comprehensive plan, and department goals, the capital projects multiple year overview, and the recreation fees and charges of the Glencoe Park District for the fiscal year beginning March 1st, 2025, and ending February 28th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? No? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bourne,
Yes.
Commissioner Kobe,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes. I entertain a motion to approve the agreement with White and Company for construction management services, including a fixed fee of $25,000 for pre-construction and bidding services, a construction management fee of 2.9% of construction costs to be fixed with the GMP, and an insurance fee of 1% as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a quick discussion based on.
Yeah.
With,
Please.
so White is just gonna be doing, White's gonna be doing both.
Yes,
um,
the divisions of their company, yes.
vision of the company, and, we all making it aware of tariffs and expenses, and we're gonna still work with this budget.
Yeah, if there's any changes, we'll come to the board.
Okay.
I can't tell you right now that
Don't want.
there, we have contingencies, we have things like that, but we don't know what's going to happen. But we are working with them. That's a first question we ask
Yep.
both the architects and the construction manager. What are you doing about this? That we're going to be monitoring. If there's any major changes, we'll come to you.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Yep.
May I entertain a motion?
They did already?
Oh, they
Commissioner
did?
Glencoe?
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bourne,
Yes.
Commissioner Kobe,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes. Thank you for keeping me on track. I entertain a motion to approve. Okay, so this in my agenda is regarding the pickleball
Pickleball,
options. And I
yeah.
have options.
There you go. Option A is 1 tennis court and 2 pickleball courts. And option D is 2 tennis courts.
So I think we had consensus at the last board meeting
Option
on
A,
A,
that-
which
Yep.
is the 1 tennis court and the
Mhm.
2 pickleball courts. So I'm
Right.
going to entertain a motion for option A for the final design and configuration at the Shelton Park racket courts as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on that topic?
Just want to say, I was at Flick Park today. There are 4 tennis courts there. None of them were being used. And
Where?
Flick Park
Okay.
and the pickleball courts were being used. So
Oh,
just another vote. And those houses are closer than ours.
They are. I agree.
And I'll just add, I was sharing with Lisa, I heard some ideas from residents. I think that there are things that we can do to kind of encourage the larger groups to be at Watts versus, or Weinberg, I'm sorry, versus Shelton Park and that.
Mhm. We did, yeah. So what we will do is that we won't take reservation at Shelton. Only reservations will be at the Weinberg. That way people can't schedule like large groups. And what was the other thing we're going to do? We're starting a roving,
Yeah.
I guess, pickleball league with other park districts. Those matches won't be held at Shelton. They will be held at
Yeah,
Weinberg.
we have some programming at Shelton, but moving forward, we can be,
Yeah.
after the spring, we'll be moving it to other locations.
Programming is different than
Yeah.
the leagues, right?
So
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be bigger groups. Carl's groups can be pretty
Okay.
big, so.
when I talked to some of the residents, that was something that was appealing to them and helped kind of assuage the fears of, changing the I don't know, tranquility, I guess, of Shelton Park. So, but I think it will be good if they're used, and we want our residents to.
We do,
enjoy these
and they
kinds.
use it. So when will construction start?
Construction will likely be late summer.
Yeah.
So now that we know how to finalize the construction documents, we'll move into that kind of final phase and get bidding lined up. So.
Is that the
Question.
same as West or is West starting
So
earlier?
West is either going to start in the fall or in the spring. We kind of have to wait and see how TAKIF planning unfolds in discussions with the school. There's some logistical issues with having 2 ball fields down at the same time, and definitely conversations with the school district about what we can do and not do that'll impact them and when to start construction.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bourne,
Yes.
Commissioner Kobe,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion to approve the Empire Printing Apparel bid for 2025 at the submitted cost per item as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bourne,
Yes.
Commissioner Kobe,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes. I entertain a motion to approve the biannual review of the executive session minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21 to include approval and release of the executive session minutes from January 21st, 2025, February 4th, 2025, and February 18th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bourne,
Yes.
Commissioner Kobe,
Yes.
Commissioner Spector,
Yes.
President Spain.
Yes. Do we have any other business?
The only other business I have is an update about that House bill from Representative Katz Mull. Actually, she gave me a call on Saturday at 5 p.m. indicating that she may be pulling the bill and putting, after talking to the IDNR, and that's already there's already a coastal standing committee, which actually we're on already, and moving this item to there for discussion. So there wouldn't be a standalone. So that is definitely a victory. And I said, Glencoe is not opposed to talking about this issue. We just wanted equal seat at the table, and I think this accomplishes that. So we're very happy about that turn of events. That's it.
That's
Thank
good
you.
news.
Great update. Okay. If there isn't anything further, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lisa, please record the time.
7:57.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank